Hi, hello, and welcome to another episode of The War on China. Today, we're going to be talking about the release of Meng Wanzhou and the release of the two Michaels. I'm joined today by Mario Cavolo once again to talk about the 10 things that we need to understand about this whole situation. So, Mario, how did you receive this news? And
I mean, you do what you do so well. You just come in with that calm, straight, boom, welcome everyone, and here now the news. Like you're like freaking Walter Cronkite, and you're like Walter Cronkite, and that's a compliment. Everybody should know that's a big compliment. And I'm sitting here like John McLaughlin, full of energy, going crazy, and all I want to do is sit here and say, "Holy guacamole! Meng Wanzhou got released," and then the Spav, the two Michaels, right? So the
Mhm.
three musketeers are free. Michael, Mikey, and Meng. I mean, it's just absolutely, and it is, right? Let's be
It
honest. This
is.
is not a
Mm,
small, this is not another, this is not just another news item. We want to attach lots of things to how big this is. Let's pray, and I mean that sincerely. Let's pray and hope that it does mark the second time that the United States looks so foolish and stupid in the last month that it really does help to mark the United States transition away from this kind of imperialist, warmongering, sanctioning, bullying nonsense. This is what they've been doing for 70 years. The Afghanistan situation made them look like idiots, rightfully so. And now this situation makes them look like fools. But there's some interesting twists, isn't there, with Spavor and Koenig being released? There's lots of incorrect opinions out there about that. There's a few other things to mention while we're on the show. I'm going to let you take
mhm.
it. Go, Fernando. Back to you. We got so
Right.
much to say.
The first thing that we want to talk about is, well, what was this about? But before we go into that, I want to remind everybody that this kind of shows, because they're so sensitive, they usually demonetize. So make sure that if you want to support this work that we do in these videos, hit the links in the description down below and support our channel.
Yes, please.
It's true. We get demonetized every single time. So, okay, what took place basically this morning here in China, or late in the afternoon in Canada, was that Meng Wanzhou attended a virtual court hearing with a judge in the US from her place in Canada. And basically, her lawyers and the court agreed to a deal where she would be released if she agreed to a statement of facts, which is very important. She was required to admit or say that she had knowingly provided false documents and that Huawei had violated US sanctions. So we're going to talk a little bit about those statements, because there has been a very important correction, if I may, into the things that took place. Um, Let me go into this information that was released just earlier today. This is a correction by let me see if it's here. It's a correction that was made by um, a newspaper, yeah, some media, saying that in a previous version of the story, CBC News reported that Meng Wanzhou was expected to plead guilty and pay a fine as part of today's proceedings, citing sources. But in fact, Meng pleaded not guilty. She pleaded not guilty as part of a deferred prosecution agreement with the US government, which did not make references to fines. So, to make it very clear out there, guys, she did not plead guilty. That's a
That's right.
very important part to what we're going to talk about, because yeah, it's a very serious accusation. It's a very serious situation, and the fact that she did not plead guilty and that the judge did not say we find this person guilty, it takes us to a whole new level of conversation.
That's
Um,
right.
Now, basically, she was released based on a DPA, which is a deferred process, a deferred, I forgot what it means. And basically, it says that if she
Deferred,
complies,
deferred, deferred prosecution agreement.
I thought it was process, deferred prosecution agreement. And it says that if she complies, the charges will be dropped, and the extradition request will also be canceled. So that's where she is. But I want to talk a little bit about a lot of the context that we need to understand. But do you have any comments so far, Mario?
Well, just that there's a lot of misinformation out there, and the DOJ, I've looked at it, the DOJ press office, Office of Public Affairs, put out a press release. A press release is not an official document, stating that she admitted to doing these things. No, she didn't. And that's the point. She didn't. She said, no, I'm not guilty. They can say what they want. I'm not guilty. So let's continue the conversation from there.
Yep. Another important thing is a lot of the context that actually took place while before these things happened. So it's important to remember that Xi Jinping and Biden had actually a phone call. I think it was on September 9th. So a lot of people are talking about, well, what was actually discussed and how did it affect what actually took place? Obviously, it's no secret that this was part of that conversation, and this coordination of the release of Meng Wanzhou and the release of the two Michaels was an important bit of that phone call. Another thing that's important to remember, yes?
Which doesn't mean that Spavor and Koenig weren't guilty. Just because they were released early has nothing to do, it's not an admission that they were that they were victims of China hostage diplomacy. The fact that they were released early does not mean they were not guilty. Not in any way, shape, or form can and should that be implied or assumed. Continue, Fernando.
Yeah, we're going to basically go through the different aspects of all the situation, which is very entangled. So the first thing to remember is that Trudeau was entangled in a re-election, and he just won. So that's another factor that you need to keep in mind. For him, this was really important to stay in power, to show some kind of strength. So that's another contextual piece of information around this resolution. And the last thing is that, well, there is talks that Xi and Biden will actually have a private meeting during the next G20 in October 30th. So that's all looking like they are sorting out their issues. But it is important to go back and look at everything that has been taken place in this case. The first thing that we have to go is the very beginning. This was an illegal arrest. This was an illegal arrest that took place in Canada. If anybody has any arguments about that, well, refer to all the legal arguments that have been presented. This is an illegal arrest because it was based on sanctions, unilateral sanctions that America decided to impose on Iran.
Not recognized by the United Nations or anybody else.
So that makes that arrest illegal. Just because America says you can't do business with Iran does not mean that the world has to do whatever they say. That kind of hegemony is losing power each and every day that goes by. Another thing that's important is that this is kind of like I was talking to some people, this is kind of like a schoolyard bully. Yeah, that's got you pinned against the wall, right? And says, okay, you are going to say that the sky is green and you're going to empty your wallet. You say the sky is green and I stop terrorizing you and I stop torturing you and I stopped making your life miserable, which is exactly what was happening to Meng Wanzhou. They asked her, you need to say that the sky is green. You need to say that you basically presented fraudulent documents, and you need to say that Huawei violated US sanctions. If you are in a situation, a lot of people are arguing this, and I would like to ask this question to you, Mario. Why, if she was so certain about her innocence, why didn't she fight the charges? Why didn't she go the whole way? Look, she has already wasted 3 years of her life, more than 1,000 days. And she's about to just start a trial. If she decided to fight this, she would start another trial. What certainty does she have that they're not going to move the goalposts? What certainty does she have they're not going to change the charges or start piling up other things when she's extradited? If they are giving her an out, I do not judge her for taking the chance. This bully has got her up against the lockers, and she just wants to go home. She just wants it to stop, Mario.
They this she had not there was nothing for her to fight, to say why didn't she continue to fight it in the legal court. That's not what this was about. The reason that this just occurred, the reason that the United States government agreed to give her a DPA and let her go, was it was their only way to, and I'm going back to Chinese culture now, save face. Their case was toast. They were embarrassed. They had nothing. Not to mention, from the beginning, first of all, from the beginning, it was illegal. And I won't go through all that. You've gone through all that. Cyrus Jansen already did a very good job of going through all that. He spends a lot more time on this case because he's up there in Canada. So all the details have been covered. We had it with Chris Black, the attorney. So I'm not the expert to go through all those details. It was illegal in the first place. It was the bullying you talked about in the first place. It was embarrassing. They thought they could get away with it like they got away with it with the French Alstom situation, stealing the business from Alstom in France and letting it go to GE. And look how they treat France now. And they did it again with the nuclear subs. Look how they're bullying and treating France. They thought they could get away with this with China, and they couldn't. And in the end, the cat really got out of the bag when HSBC finally agreed in the Hong Kong court to release the emails clearly showing Miss Meng wasn't hiding anything from us. Here's the email showing we were fully aware of who the subsidiary was in Iran, which is what that your charges are, that she was trying to defraud us by hiding the fact that there was a subsidiary in Iran. No, we have the emails that we knew all about that. So she wasn't hiding anything from us. The case was toast. This was not.
This is why it's a bully just pushing you against the lockers, because look, there's this correction. In a previous version of this story, they reported that she was expected to plead guilty and pay a fine. But why? I mean, if she ever pled guilty, which she didn't, according to this correction, she would be coerced to do so because she has evidence showing that she did not defraud HSBC, that she did not present fraudulent documents. So
how many people? Everybody, let's ask this question, right, Fernando? How many people do a plea deal and plead guilty because they got a deal when they're not guilty, right? And they still plead guilty. Can you imagine how weak this case was so weak that in front of the whole world, they couldn't even get her to plead guilty in return for being set free. She's like, no. How incredibly embarrassing and demoralizing so if the United States had continued to try to pursue this thing, they would have just looked worse and worse and worse, period. So as far as I'm concerned, that's the end of the story here.
This media spin that is coming out saying that she was asked to plead guilty, think about this. They're just asking her, Miss Meng, do you want to go home? Just say the sky is green. Miss Meng, do you want to go home? Just say that you're guilty. Miss Meng, do you want to go home? Just say that you defrauded HSBC, that you actually committed a crime. She wants to go home. She might say that. But the interesting thing is that she didn't have to, and the judge did not say the words, we find you guilty of, and here is the agreement that we have with you. Exactly. Let's move on to the DPA, okay? What is the meaning of the DPA? What's the implication of a DPA? How do you see it, Mario?
The DPA is the way for the United States government to say we did something which lets them save face, but in fact, we actually did nothing, because deferred means deferred forever. You know, it's like a law that's on the books that never gets enforced. It was a way for them to bow out without completely embarrassing themselves. They had to get something. Well, oh, we'll give you a deferred prosecution until you die. That's like saying we're never going to prosecute you. They needed a way to save face. That was the best compromise way in legal language that they could come up with, because they didn't have a leg to stand on. Their case was toast. That's my take on it.
And the interesting part of the DPA is that it includes a condition that she should not talk about the details of this case until December 2022. Why? They're expecting that people forget about all this and then it doesn't matter down the road. Now, do I think she's going to stick to it? I think she's very afraid of going anywhere internationally. I would like to show you a short video of the actually flight path that she took out of Canada. Notice that she avoided Alaska and she avoided anything near Japan, South Korea. Take a look at this video. Friends, that is fear of any kind of change of heart or any kind of possible attack, a possible mistake taking place during her return home. Now, there's another important part that a lot of people are asking, oh, but she was asked to pay a fine. And a lot of people were a little bit confused, thinking like, okay, but this is an extradition case in Canada. Why does she have to pay a fine for an extradition? There is not such thing. I mean, there's no verdict, there's no fine for an extradition case, but the fine was actually being requested by the United States. Now, it is unclear because, as you saw, the media is still correcting things, saying there was no guilty plea and there was no talk of a fine. But a lot of people think that there's actually money actually exchanging hands. For the United States, it's very important to make it look like, no, they didn't. But what are the odds that that is true? We don't have information so far. Mario?
It wasn't money. It was Kovrig and it was Babor and Koenig. That was the payment. It was them.
So these two Michaels, we've talked about them before. I've talked about them before in my channel. They're basically spies. It's very important to notice a couple of things about this guy. If you see, let me bring this up right here. This is a kind of person that this Power was. Yeah, he's meeting with Kim Jong-un all the time. So this is a Canadian person, yeah, doing business in North Korea. Here's the interesting thing that we addressed with Mr. Black, and a lot of people were like, wow, really? Think about this. If this man is doing business with North Korea, and North Korea is a sanctioned country by the United States, you're not supposed to do business with North Korea. Why is this guy not being extradited?
Right.
If this guy is doing business with North Korea, and North Korea is a sanctioned country, why is he not being extradited to the United States? Because he's working for them. That's why.
Right.
Answer that question to me. Answer that question to me. So this guy, there's tons of pictures. There's tons of pictures of this man with Kim Jong-un in different occasions. And, well, what's he doing over there? And he was found in China trading information, trading data with the other Michael. So you have a story that you want to share with us about this, right?
Oh, yeah.
Mario.
Yeah, man. I absolutely. I did. Folks, you're going to love this. So I've done a lot of research in the last day. There's a particular link to an article laying out how clear it is what Spavor and Koenig were up to. Not necessarily what they were up to, but who they were up to it with. So an organization that bordered on being a terrorist organization. Another U.S.-backed terrorist organization called the ICG, the International Crisis Group. And the International Crisis Group was founded by, and of which Kovrig and Spavor were both members. Okay, members of, and working in North Korea. And excuse me, but the ICG was first initially funded by, got it all right in front of me here, George Soros. I mean, you can't laugh more. So, and then what did they do? They cooperated and worked with, for example, in regime change in Eritrea with the TPLF. The TPLF, hold on, violence against their own citizens, including withholding aid from the Tigrayans, using child soldiers, and manipulating refugees into acting as victims in doctored propaganda films against the central Ethiopian government. That's what TPLF was doing with ICG's support and funding. I could go on and on and on and on. ICG has actually proven itself to be a Western-backed force for instability and regime change operations worldwide, going so far as to back violent jihadis and secessionists to accomplish U.S.-led regime change goals. How familiar does that sound? What does this have to do with Spavor and Koenig? Koenig worked for the ICG inside for 4 years since 2017. Spavor was taking photos of Chinese military and BRI projects and sending them to Koenig with the ICG. That's why they got arrested. I can't make it any simpler. I can't make it any simpler than that.
That's the main thing here, and this
can't
is
make
why
it any simpler than that.
You were saying that you were once in Hainan near a military base, and there was you tell us that story.
What are the odds now, Fernando? What are the odds? Okay, we lived. I married my wife in 2007 in Shanghai. I had bought a beautiful condo on the beach. Sounds like a dream, and it was. I bought my beautiful condo on the beach in Dadonghai, and I said to my darling new wife, "Hey, I got a condo on the. I'm a guy with a condo on the beach, and I'm your new husband. Let's go live in the condo on the beach and have a honeymoon. I just married you." And she was like, "Oh, honey, that sounds great." So we did that. We ended up staying for 3 years. My wife worked for the Mandarin Oriental Hotel, which had opened up down there. So we ended up staying for 3 years. And I bought a big Chinese Harley Davidson style motorbike, one of those big ones, not a scooter, one of those big Harley type motorbikes with a small engine, Chinese engine on it, right? And we tooled all around on the weekends. We would jump on the scooter. We didn't have our boy then. We were just the two of us. And we were honeymooning, man. And we went on the farm roads all around Hainan Island. We toured the entire island by motorcycle, like Jerry, right? Just like Jerry, whom we all admire, and on his motorcycle with his wife. So we did that. Well, what you don't know is right next to Dadonghai was I can't remember the name of the bay. It was a military bay with submarines.
Yalong Bay,
right there. That's Yalong Bay. Then there was another bay in between the two, which was where the subs were, right? And then Yalong Bay, there was military there. If you stayed at the Ritz-Carlton or the Marriott or the Sheraton or all those other beautiful hotels up on Yalong Bay, that's the most famous beach up on in Hainan. And if you stayed there, there was a line on the left. Don't cross the line. On the other side of that line, it was military. The Hainan Island is surrounded all the way around by military bases. So Nana and I, we get on the scooter and we're just zooming around in the country. We're just zooming around in the tropical island, and we're going through the farms. And then we would hit the roadblock. We would come down. I went down a couple times. I remember this, man. It was scary. It was scary. We're going up the hill, up over the crest of the hill, down the other side of the hill, and around the bend, and come to a screeching frickin' halt at a military guard gate with guys that were armed and not smiling.
Serious.
Yeah, this was okay. And I actually attempted to say, "Hi, hey, we made a mistake. Whoa, this is a military base, really? Tell me more about it." I'm really good at talking. Come on, Fernando, I'm good at talking people up, right? And, "Hi, how are you?" And wow, I never met a military soldier out in the middle of nowhere. "My name's Mr. Ma. What's yours?" Like the guys with the bank trucks in China. The bank trucks, right? The guys with the bank trucks, they got the pump action rifles, and they get out and they go to the banks and they collect the money. Like those guys, they don't smile, they don't engage with anybody. You avoid them, man. And you're just like, "No, I'm 1 second. I'm one step away from getting my head blown off," right? And that's what it was. And that's what it was like with these military guys. And I wasn't even anywhere near. Could you imagine that I could take pictures of military stuff? I
Hmm.
couldn't even get past these guys out in the middle of nowhere. So how did Spavor take photos of military sensitive photos of military crafts, equipment, BRI projects, all this stuff, and then get it back to ICG, the violent regime change NGO backed by the United States and funded by George Soros? You want to know why they got arrested for no reason at all? Give me a break. They
So
got
there you go.
arrested for
You
very
got
good reason.
an innocent mother, an innocent
Oh.
executive, a COO of a very, very important company, and two spies, two criminals. So what you had in this situation where they were asking to free Meng Wanzhou, and they were asking, okay, give us the two Canadian spies. It was a deal with a terrorist. This is a negotiation, a terrorist negotiation. Think about this. When there is a bank heist and the bad guys are inside the bank and the police is outside, do you think the police is happy to give them the pizzas? Do you think the police is happy to give them the water? Do you think the police is happy to give them the getaway car or the helicopter? No, they're not, but they do it. Why? Because they want the better outcome. So this is what actually took place here in China. She was being hostage. She was being held hostage in Canada, and things could have gotten a lot worse. So let's not conflate what China did, which is basically they traded these two criminals for an innocent woman, for the better good, for the better situation, for an innocent person. That has got to be absolutely clear to everybody, and everybody needs to understand this. Now, I want to move on to um, other aspects of this, which corroborate a little bit this idea that they are spies. Here's this tweet by the Intelligence Service of Canada. Welcome home, Michaels. I mean, come on. Come on.
Hey, Fernando, I gotta say it. I go back to the United States. I haven't been back in 3 years because of the COVID, right, etc. You go back to Colombia, right, after you've been released from jail, because we got in trouble here in China and we're in jail. So we got released from jail, and you go back to Colombia, or I go back to the United States, and the CIA leaves a tweet message, "Welcome home, Mario." The CIA or the Colombian CIA. Would they do that? Would the CIA leave a tweet? "Oh, welcome back, Mr. Mario." Yeah, right.
But Twitter is having a lot of fun with this. This tweet is not a smart idea. You just link the Michaels to intelligence gathering. Oh, total spies. Anyway, I mean, I think that's everything that we needed to say about this case, but there are other things that we wanted to talk about today. First of all, I wanted to ask you about the okay, if you guys have any questions about the perspective that we have on this case, please leave them in the comment section. We normally do not do live streams, we don't engage, but if you have questions, do leave them here, and we're gonna put them out here and address them. If it's a super chat, much better. Yep.
Do you have chat? Do you have people in chat? Because on my side, because I'm a guest in your StreamYard, so I don't see it. Do you have any questions in there that we should address? Anything?
Here's one by a good friend, Joan Bauer. He says, if Canada demanded 2 chickens and a panda and China gave them to them, he wouldn't say anything about the chickens or the panda. Same with the Michaels. Cost of doing business. Thank you, John. That's very true. John. I mean, that's what they did. There's this person here, Gav Monroe, saying we just came back from Yalong Base, and yeah, we could see the base from our hotel room. They're everywhere. They're absolutely everywhere.
Oh yeah, the military bases are Hainan Island's major. Yep, South China Sea.
Okay, we got Mason. CSIS did what? Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Here you go. Welcome home, Michaels.
Fernando,
Mario, what were you saying?
Yeah. No, I want to say to everybody, because I need and I want and I think it's good to passionately argue my case. And what I said, all the things that I said earlier, that narrative story that I shared about Spavor and Kovrig and the ICG, I want everybody to understand, by the way, that I was in every way being factually clear. All I did was lay out the facts. of what's known. And I want to be very clear about that. So, Fernando and I, we pride ourselves on this. If we're not dealing with sources that we know are absolutely correct, if we're not right on what we're saying, if it's not clearly, evidently known to be true, right? We don't say it. I don't say it. So I was ranting a bit about Spavor and COVID. I want to be very clear. What I was saying was factually clear and accurate. Their involvement with the ICG, the things they
Let's
were doing,
address
etc.
this
Period.
gentleman right here. Listen, this gentleman is one of many people who are trying to push this idiotic narrative. Waiting to see how you defend China now, Fernando. They've always said Michaels were detained as a result of retaliation. Listen,
Right.
they were detained because they were spies.
Right.
They were
weren't.
judged. There was evidence.
Right.
Did you see that photo with Kim Jong-un? Did you see the photo with Kim Jong-un? Didn't you see it?
Look.
Is he supposed to be doing business with North Korea? North Korea is a sanctioned country. Why isn't he being deported to the United States? Shut up. Shut up.
This is your big one. This is the one that gets you angry, and I appreciate it. I do. Listen, I want to be very clear, folks. Let me be the one that plays calm for a change. Fernando gets angry about this, and he should. Listen very carefully. Okay. The world is sanctioned, whether it should be or not. The world is sanctioned against doing business with North Korea. Okay. You cannot do business with. I live in northeast China, Liaoning province. From Shenyang, it is a 2.5-hour drive to Dandong on the border of North Korea. It's a beautiful drive. Southern Liaoning province is beautiful. Dandong is a lovely city. I've been there on the border of it's right on the Yalu River, which is the border, about 150 meters wide river. That's the border to North Korea. Okay. I would never do business with North Korea. You're not allowed to. There are sanctions in place. You're not allowed to. Michael Spavor was doing business in North Korea. He was on a yacht with Kim Il-jung. Why and how was he regularly doing business there? He never got sanctioned for doing business with North Korea by the United States. He never got arrested for doing that. What the heck was going on? And this is exactly Fernando's point. That's why they supposedly arrested Meng Wanzhou for doing business with a sanctioned country, Iran. Now, it was all bogus. You see what's going on here? So this is what Fernando, I remember, this is a very, very big point. He gets upset about it. And I don't blame him one bit, because these are the realities of the situation. Okay. Nobody does business with North Korea, but Spavor was. Okay. Moving on.
Now, we are going to address some of the other things that we wanted to talk about. This came out this morning. I've been working all day, like 8 hours of teaching, but this was a show that we had to make. But we had a different show planned. So right now, let's talk a little bit about some of the things that you did yesterday and the things that we had planned for the show that we were going to record. So tell me about yesterday. You had a very interesting speech, an appearance. What was that about?
Yeah, very cool. So 3 things, Fernando. Education, the education sector, which is what you just asked me about, the COVID, cute little update on the COVID-19 situation, and then we have to spend 2 minutes at least talking about Evergrande, right? So the education situation. Man, I missed you and thought of you yesterday. Congratulate me. I'm going to be proud. I'm going to say I'm proud of myself. Congratulate me. Tell me. Come on, man. Come on. In front of everybody.
Congratulations, Mario.
You know for what? You know for what? You know for what, dude? You know for what? Right here, man. I did a 20-minute live keynote in front of an audience in a ballroom of 400, 500 people, a government education industry event, Liaoning province, and I gave the keynote in frickin' Mandarin, baby. I gave the keynote.
You did it in Mandarin?
Yeah, dude.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
I did it.
Amazing.
Actually, I did it in both. I did it in English and Mandarin, but full-blown real Mandarin, dude. And that's a task. That's a task. So I admit I felt really proud of that. I did it really well, really well. And that was a lot of work. So, but now the next part of it is that education sector event was a gathering of all the businesses, not the schools, who are in the children's education, innovation, creative, and development industry. So all the businesses that are doing legitimate programs for the kids, computer, arts, dance, painting, Tai Chuan Dao, I said computer, all the other sports, all the things that are not what the schools provide, right? Which is supposed to be the school's obligation to provide. School, real school. Okay. So if that conference, I thought of you because if that conference had existed in your province, then your company would have been in the audience. That's what it was all about. So I was thinking of you yesterday. Yeah, I was thinking about you. So it was very, very good and very, very important. And they're all very positive. Oh, so let me leave you with the close on that. So what's the close? The close is that all those people that were there, those 400 people, were all 100% in favor of Xi's reforms. Just so you know, the people backed what Xi's doing, man. They back what he's doing. He's doing the right thing because that's what's best for society, for the families, for the households, and for the kids. One of the things I said during my keynote was, I can't remember now. 讲是的, I think is right. Maybe that's wrong. You cannot make your kids get zombie brain. I don't have it in front of me. You can't make your kids get zombie brain, man. You can't do it.
Yeah.
You know, and everybody there was supportive of these Gaige, okay, which is reforms, the Chinese word for reforms. They're all in favor of it, man. So that's an indication of what's happening here in China. There's no split. There's no argument. 90% of the people, and these are the business people. These are the business people. 70% of the people in the audience of 500 people were business owners in the children's industry. None of them were saying it was easy, by the way. None of them were saying, "Yeah, we're making money hand over fist." Some of them are, some of them aren't. None of them were saying it's easy. They were all saying we agree with it. Incredible,
guys. Before I tell you about my plans for this week, I have one final comment on the Meng Wanzhou that I think is very important for you guys to understand. It is important for people to understand that there is a great loss of leadership in the United States. There's a great loss of trust in the legal proceedings that take place in countries like Canada, in countries like the United States, with a situation like this. Next time that somebody like, I don't know, Tim Cook is traveling around the world and ends up in Hong Kong, what if somebody comes up with a fraudulent charge? Can they snatch him? Is this changing the way the world is going to operate? They just caught the Meng Wanzhou from Russia just today. They released Meng Wanzhou and there's somebody else that got caught. So it is very important to understand that there's a huge loss. There's a huge loss of trust in the legal order in the world because of the Meng Wanzhou case. It was a bogus case. She never had to plead guilty. But I want you to step back and think for 1 second. What do you think the people who plan these actions, they don't know the risk that they're taking? Do you think they don't anticipate this loss of trust? But the interesting thing about that is that they know that. And even though they know this, they go ahead and do it. Why? What is the payout? What is there at the other end of these illegal actions that they are taking that is so beneficial, so good, so attractive, so worth losing the trust of the world? That's a very important question to ask ourselves. What do you reckon, Myra?
Yeah, I reckon you're absolutely right. The lack of trust. But I want to say 3 points. One, the United States pulled out of Afghanistan. They got egg on their face. Okay, so they know they got to change their ways. That was number one. Number two, Biden and Xi finally got on the phone. We now obviously know some of the things that they discussed. We need and hope that also is a step in the right direction, meaning the U.S. is going to back off of being this crazy imperialist, warmongering, bullying monster that it's been for the last 70 years, because the entire world, thanks to social media, is watching, and they look like idiots, and they look like fools. The cat's out of the bag. The emperor has no clothes on, baby, and they know it.
This is a very important thing.
Yes, number two. And number three, Tucker, number 3, the one that has me blown away, and I still think about it every day because it was huge, was not only the administration, but the news, Fox News, Tucker Carlson, who, whether he likes it or not, did what he did and went on and praised China. Wow, China's doing work reforms, protecting workers, protecting children in the education industry, protecting children from zombifying their brains with games. And he was like, wow, isn't that all the things that we're all supposed to be doing in society, for our society, for the people in our society? There was Tucker Carlson. So again, with the news, maybe a third indication that the tide is turning, that they know they have to back off this insane accusations of China's black, dark, ugly, and nefarious, when the truth is it's the exact opposite. China's doing a great job.
I want to take a moment to thank Alex Tay, who's sending us a super sticker. Thank you very much, guys. You know that this video is going to be demonetized, so anything that you can do to support us is very much appreciated. But I wanted to point this particular message here. The rest of the world should rethink about working or trading with USA and Canada. You'll never know where they're going to backstab you. France, man. Just think about France. Think about America listening to all the European countries. And it's not fake news. This is, they know that they've been listening to Angela Merkel, to Macron, to all these people. This is out in the open. So yeah, I mean, the loss of credibility and trust in the United States is one of the things that's huge.
But you're contravening my point here, and that's okay. You're contravening my point here. My point here is the third point I made, and now I want to make the fourth point, which is the Meng Wanzhou release. The fourth thing where they look like horses' asses. So now we got 1, 2, 3, 4 things that have happened all within the course of a month, where I'm hoping that what you just said is what's finally really, we're seeing the tide turn. We're seeing the shift. The United States has finally got to start acting more sane, like a global partner. They're seeing the truth. They're not going to get away with bullying China. They're not going to get away with it. It's not going to happen. And AUKUS was almost like a joke. Okay. So I'm going to say, no, let's stop. I want to give the United States space. 4 things have happened that the United States have done in the last month that we wanted them to do, that they should have done.
That's what I'm
saying. All right. In the last month. Right. So they're doing it. So now I want to back off criticizing America. Give them the space. They're listening. It seems to me they're listening. Tucker Carlson is listening. We're making an impact. They're finally realizing what I'm saying. You hear me, folks? So let's back off. And now let's let them do a 5th thing. Okay? I'm not saying it's all going to happen tomorrow, but that's 4 things in 1 month that the United States did, either the administration or the media, that shows that the tide is turning, that they realize they've been horses' asses and warmongering monsters, and it's got to stop. Okay, now, I'm going to leave it at that. And that's me being hopeful.
Yes, I mean, everybody is very positive about this. I mean, that they're actually sitting at the table and talking and discussing and getting to agreements and positive outcomes like this. But the one thing that the thumbnail of this video says, this is not about justice, okay? What happened to Meng Wanzhou is an enormous injustice. And we're here. We are with her being released and coming back to China, coming back home. Welcome back home, Meng Wanzhou. We're very happy that this has actually happened. But let's not kid ourselves. This was not about justice in any case. So, guys, we are going to basically, we wanted to just talk about one more thing. Mario, what were
you going to say? No, what were you going to say just now? One more thing.
No, I was just going to mention that I'm going to be working on a live stream this week, this weekend, in Zhuhai, the International Air Show. I'll be working with Guangdong TV, doing some live streams. So keep an eye on that because, well, I'm a skydiver, been around planes, so that's
air show. Really? Oh,
yes, sir. Yes, sir. 3 days. So keep an eye for that. That should be interesting. What's up? Yeah.
Did you say you're a skydiver?
I'm a skydiving instructor. Yes, but I haven't jumped in like 14 years. I haven't jumped solo or with a student for many, many years since I came to China. But there
Dude,
is a skydiving taking place in
dude,
July, so that's
that
gonna
you
be
did it,
exciting.
that you did it at all. I see you forever in a different light. That's incredible.
Mm.
Oh my
Oh
God,
yeah,
skydive. You did that thing, man. Wow.
yeah.
Wow,
That's
wow,
why my
wow, wow,
name
wow.
is Gao Fei. My Chinese name is Gao Fei, as in fly high, because well, I was really passionate about skydiving.
Wow. Wow.
All right, guys, we have another show that we need to shoot, but we're running a little bit late. We want to thank all of you guys for staying with us for this 45 minutes of the live stream that we pull out at the very last minute. We've been communicating throughout the day to put all this information together so that you get a better understanding of what actually took place. The most important part that I want to reiterate is this: Meng Wanzhou did not plead guilty. She did not plead guilty. So please do not conflate these two spies that were caught spying and Meng Wanzhou. They do not belong together. Mario, any last words?
Last words. And yes, let's give them some great information as another last item, 30 seconds. Folks, do not allow yourself to listen to and believe any of the misinformation with respect to Evergrande. That's another big, big story over the last week.
Mm.
And Meng Wanzhou just came up and became the bigger story, but Evergrande is huge. Listen, every time you read that Evergrande is the crisis that's blowing up China's economy, remember that Mr. Ma told you that that's not the case. Please don't be ridiculous. That ain't the case. I could go, we don't have time in this show to go into the reasons why. It's not the case at all. And no, they're not bailing them out, are they? Nope, they're not. They
No,
didn't
they're
make
not.
they did not make the dollar-denominated bond payment. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. Of course, big companies going out of business, they're going to do all kinds of things, but they're not going to get bailed out. And at the same time, it's not the end of the China real estate market. Any of the crazy, stupid,
Society before
ridiculous.
shareholders.
It's
That's Mr.
ridiculous.
Xi's principle. Society
Well,
before shareholders. Let shareholders deal with their mistakes.
and good job, Fernando. End it right there. That's right. So that's the perfect last comment. That's the point.
All
See
right,
you,
guys.
everybody.
See you next. Bye bye.